quality preschool, curriculum materials, teacher training, counseling, mental health programs, or school climate interventions. The department has streamlined paperwork under ESSA for the Title I program so schools can spend more time helping students learn and less time demonstrating compliance. ESSA followed Hawaii's lead and now requires multiple measures for school accountability. These still include test scores, but now also include the extent to which English learners are making progress in achieving English language proficiency, graduation rates, student growth, and a state-selected measure of school quality, or student success. ESSA requires that this information be used to identify schools for support and improvement. Hawaii is proposing to take a new approach to school accountability. As recommended to the board, Hawaii proposes that ESSA school accountability requirements be limited in its use. ESSA required school accountability will be used specifically to identify schools with the most struggling students for comprehensive support and improvement, and schools with the most struggling student subgroups for targeted support and improvement. Schools Strive High reports will be more comprehensive than ESSA required school accountability. There will be annual Strive High reports on school performance. These annual public reports will provide information on schools' progress on strategic plan indicators based on common statewide measures, as well as school or complex selected measures. ESSA has many requirements that address equitable access and outcomes for students of different characteristics, and expands the list of student subgroups for whom data will be reported to include homeless students, students in foster care, and children with active duty military parents or guardians. Additionally, because of our unique and multicultural student population, Hawaii is choosing to also look at results of student subgroups for Native Hawaiians and Filipinos, which represent our two most prevalent ethnicities of our students. We also look at Pacific Islanders, a group which is the most academically struggling. We want to make sure that our school accountability makes sense for our island population. Performance for student subgroups will be reported at the school, complex area, and state levels. ESSA offers resources and has requirements to promote quality teaching and school leadership. These resources promote the Goal 2 staff success objectives in the strategic plan. With support of ESSA funds, Hawaii will explore new teacher recruitment strategies which are critical, especially for some of our hard-to-staff schools that have many struggling students or are in remote locations. Nationwide, fewer people are preparing to be teachers, and we need to be innovative in providing prepared teachers for all of our students. We will also continue induction and mentoring programs for all new teachers. Throughout the DOE, our new teachers are consistently receiving this support during their first 2 years. ESSA requires that teachers for all grades and subjects be prepared to teach the classes that they are assigned. This expands expectations of no child left behind highly qualified teacher requirements. Based on much analysis and stakeholder feedback, Hawaii's plan offers teachers multiple ways to demonstrate their subject matter competence. Title II funds are among the many resources that schools and teachers may use to assist educators in improving teaching and learning and student support. Significant state support for teacher planning, collaboration, and training is part of the negotiated collective bargaining agreement. Since 2013, teachers have had the equivalent of 13 paid days for planning and collaboration as part of the school calendar. ESSA has a number of programs and requirements to address some of our most vulnerable students, those whose parents move frequently for employment in the correctional system, learning English, do not have stable housing, or are under foster care. ESSA resources support services for our students so that they are safe, healthy, and supported, so that they can take advantage of educational opportunities. Following the Board of Education's authorization, the state's ESSA plan draft will be posted online for review and feedback. Summary of the ESSA State Consolidated Plan draft, more detailed draft plans, and feedback forms to provide comments. During the comment period, DOE will be conducting outreach to share information about the opportunity to review and comment. Concurrently, there is also an opportunity to comment on the state school accountability system, Strive High.
As mentioned during the video, during the public comment, we'll post the summary, the executive summary that was attached to the board materials, a full draft, which was running about 120 pages, and a feedback survey. And so those will all go online as soon as the board authorizes the public comment period. And so we'd just like to remind you in closing that this will be an opportunity for stakeholders to review what is the current status of planning, and also really important for our schools to have that information about what things are shaping up to be as they plan for next school year. So at this point, we're happy to answer any questions about the process for public comment, the development of the plan, or what's in the plan itself.
Thank you, Tammy. Any questions from the board? Board Member Moss?
Just one question, Tammy. It's more of a process question. The governor's blueprint for education that the ESSA team developed, how exactly was that used to be incorporated or inputted within this 120 pages that's going out for public comment?
So we reviewed the blueprint. We actually had several conversations with the ESSA team and with the governor about this, and are anticipating another meeting as well to talk specifically about the draft. He said, his office just says, we want to see the full draft before we meet. I'm like, okay, 120 pages coming your way. But in terms of how it was incorporated, so one significant way that it was incorporated is in terms of how the goals are set. So people might recall from No Child Left Behind days that the feds used to set the goal for us. 100% of students proficient by the year 2014. And under ESSA, states set their own goals. So we use the governor's blueprint as a guideline in how to set the goals for student achievement as well as graduation rates. And then also in terms of how to think about the achievement gaps and the different achievement targets for the different subgroups. So that was probably a really significant way that the blueprint was incorporated. Also, we considered throughout other ways that the blueprint addressed ESSA topics. One of them, for example, is on preschool. So Title I funds, an allowable use of those funds is for preschool. So I think you might have heard mention that that's sometimes a use that schools might choose to apply their Title I funds. And then the other, I think, is just really the spirit of the governor's blueprint in saying that we really want to make sure that schools have flexibility to address needs as they see fit, as opposed to more state directives. And so in a lot of places we really did, when we had choices, we really took a hard look and said, what can schools, should the plan include some really specific, you should do A or A, B, and C, or say that would be something that would be left for schools in conjunction with their communities and their complex area superintendents to decide. And we typically erred on that side. So for example, when we think about what happens if a school is identified as having a lot of struggling students and identified for federal purposes for comprehensive support and improvement. We did not prescribe the interventions. And we basically said it really depends on the needs of the school, and then it would have to take the school with assistance, take a look at their needs again and look at their plans again, and then come up with whatever the appropriate interventions are. So it doesn't assume any particular reason that a school might have struggling students, and leaves it flexible for a very local specific approaches. We think about a place like Hana or Ka'u, some of our more remote schools. They just have different challenges, and so there's not a one-size-fits-all answer to what would really help improve the school. So I think hopefully that's helpful, but we really did take seriously the governor's blueprint.
Any further questions? Board Member Min?
Yeah, Demi, as you and I know, we sat on the ESA task force, and I know this is a very, very important document, but for me, honestly, it just doesn't carry the same flavor as what I thought the governor was projecting. It doesn't, it was a nice report, but it didn't excite me. It didn't talk about how we going to get these students to get there. How are we going to give teachers more flexibility? How are we going to get down to the classroom? It didn't say anything like that. It talked about developing a well-rounded child, you know, to meet general statements like that. I would like to see the plan kind of flavor it the way the governor has been trying to bring education in, which is flexibility, releasing some of these controls. I don't see that in the plan. I'm sorry, maybe I'm missing it, maybe it's something that educators will understand, but for me, I would rather see something that talks directly to what the governor was addressing. And I just don't feel like I see as much as I should. That's my observation.
I think for me, looking at as a principal at Hawaiʻi High School and also in my current role as interim deputy, and looking at what the ESSA plan is, for me, I really believe that it does empower me as a principal to see what, if we're looking at whole child, we're looking at well-rounded students, we're looking at transitions, it provides me with opportunity to determine, working with my school, with my community, my teachers, what would be the best approach in addressing those different issues that might be coming up within my school. So for me, I see it as an opportunity for our school to get together to address some of the issues that we have in creative ways. And hopefully as innovative as what Hannah presented, because that was an outstanding presentation. So for me, I look forward to taking the plan, sharing with my teachers, and moving forward together.
Thank you, Keith. Any further questions? Vice Chair DeLima?
It was good to hear the soothing voice of our communication director as we listen to a lot of data being presented to us. And I just want to say that I don't think that there's a disconnect necessarily between the ESSA plan and what was presented today. However, as we listen to the presentation and we look at the materials that have been handed out, it does have a flavor of compliance. In terms of compliance with the federal law and what the deadlines that we need to meet, and things have to be signed off on. So I get that context, and it's good to hear Keith speak about that he feels empowered as a principal, and I want us to realize that for those people who have to make the decisions and are on the front lines of the student learning, you know, I want to be assured that they fully believe and are supported with the understanding that if we're going to tackle student achievement and the achievement gap, it can only occur with the belief that teachers are empowered at the grassroots level. So it concerns me that when Mr. Min, who sat on the ESSA task force, as an educator, is concerned that it doesn't come. When he listens to the presentation, he doesn't feel or understand that that's what's being delivered. So we need, I think, to kind of clarify and make sure that we're all on the same page with that. I do want to state this, though, that HSTA has come up with some suggestions and opportunities. They've kind of suggested other measures in states that have done it a different way. And I want us to be open to that discussion so we can have a meeting of the minds and try to have further dialogue to see if we can adjust our measures to where we can be fully supported by all the stakeholders. And the last thing I want to say is I think the motion we don't have a motion on the floor yet, but all we're doing is adopting the timetable for public input. And then we'll have another opportunity to actually make some changes if we feel that it's appropriate. And I'm just hoping that the department goes into the public input process with an open mind.
Board Member Bergen?
Tammy, I just want to let you know that we fully appreciate the hard work that's been put into this document. And when I look around the room and I see how many of your department heads are here to support it, I know that it was a collective effort on all of their parts to help put this together. And I just wanted to express my appreciation to all of those leaders that took the time to come to help support this today.
Board Member Bid.
Yeah, in response to Keith, you know how much I respect you, okay, and I'm glad that you feel empowered. I just want I want every teacher and educator to feel just as empowered as you when you look at this. And that's just what thank you.
Board Member Chun, and then Board Member Cox.
I'd just like to share with my fellow board members that for me, putting the plan that's before us in context, I feel like we have a very comprehensive and well thought through blueprint on education, as well as a very thoughtful and well prepared strategic plan, which I think both documents fully speak to our desire for school level empowerment, school leader empowerment. I think we must remember, however, that this particular aspect of what was presented to us today is about basically getting the money from the feds and making sure that we have addressed the requirements that we must address in order to access the funding in order to realize our vision. So to whatever degree there's a concern that perhaps the ESSA plan doesn't speak to that broader vision, the warm fuzzies kind of language, I feel like that language is very much a part of our vision and plan, and it is reflected in the blueprint and the strategic plan. And to whatever degree the ESSA plan, correctly, adequately, and appropriately addresses federal standards to situate us, to provide our school leaders with the resources they need, as Mr. Hayashi mentioned, I'm comfortable with that. To me, that's the goal of this particular piece.
Board Member Cox.
Yes, I too was going to go down that road. As a former principal, I like knowing what the feds expect me to do, but I like it that it doesn't tell me how to do that, so that with working with my school community, then I can figure out how best in some areas that I may be deficient and other areas that my school is doing really well, then we'll just keep doing the same thing. So I appreciate the idea that it's not super specific on anything, that it does what the feds say, because we can't survive without their money, but that it leaves that, and everybody talks about flexibility, and I don't know if I want to say that, but because that's kind of the buzzword nowadays, but schools know best what they need to be working on, and that's, to me, that's what I get, and I haven't really soaked in all of these pages, but as I'm going through, it's really telling me what the federal requirements are, but that it doesn't tell me how I have to meet every one of those. It tells me I have to test. I mean, the federal government has always said we're going to have to test. I mean, so we all just know that that's what's going to happen. Now, down the road, there may be, when they come out, maybe we could apply for the pilot to do some assessment differently, but until you know exactly how it is, we can't put that in a plan. So I think this is, there may be some tweaking that needs to be done and some things that you can pick up from all of the input, because that's the purpose of sending it out. But I feel like you've done a good job, and I appreciate all the hard work, because boy, oh boy, I wouldn't want to have written this whole thing. So I thank you very much for your time and energy, all of you that out there that worked on it.
I should mention, the executive summary is not that short. It's about, 14 pages, what ended up being. But that is, we tried to pick out the highlights that we thought were most important to share, but there is a lot of detail under, so I don't want to sugarcoat that there's no sort of ticky-tack requirements. There are, but we tried to make, every time we ran into it, and what we didn't want the first answer to be, well, the feds told us we have to. Sometimes they did, but we tried to make the most sense in the context of the blueprint and the strategic plan for helping our schools move forward.
Any further questions or comments? I do have some comments and then, sorry. Not yet, because we're still asking for questions and comments. So, I agree. I think the effort that you put in is very well done. It's an excellent document. I think, as Board Member Chun has put it, and maybe Board Member Cox has reinforced it, I think we have to keep in mind the audience that you're addressing. And I think you did a great job of doing that, because it is making sure that we do get the funds. So it gets right to the heart of the issues, making sure that the Fed understands, well, that we are going to be following the directives or the requirements. So again, I think you guys did a good bang-up job on this. One question or a couple questions on the process, just so I understand the mechanics. You're going to send the public or summary of comments from the public to the board by June 6th, and then there'll be a revision in 2 weeks. Is that enough time for you guys to make the revisions that you think may be needed?
So the current schedule is for the public comment period to close on May 18th. And then we would take that time to process. So the next subsequent board meeting, after we've had sufficient time to process, is June 6th. So we would want to share those. And any major changes that we'd be making, let you know what those might be and get feedback on that.
So there'll be continuous revisions?
Yeah, but we'll be
following the public
revising
comment
throughout.
of the board.
So it actually gives us about 3 weeks of revision time, even if there's a board meeting in the middle of it.
And then the governor will weigh in by reviewing it following the board's approval, or during the time that the board approves the document, is that correct?
So there's actually 2 different times that I expect the governor to weigh in as we move forward. We would really like to have the governor's input on the current draft, because any major changes
Right.
we'd like to be incorporated into the draft itself, because once the board approves it, then we'd like it to be done as a document, and then the governor by law gets an opportunity to review and choose to sign or not sign the plan before it's submitted to the Fed. So that would be the final step before submission.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's staged properly so that you don't get blindsided by the review by the governor or foreshed any major changes. So if you've anticipated that in the timeline, that's great.
So we have queries out right now and in conversations with the governor's office as well as the legislative chairs and lots of community organizations and such. We have over 20 scheduled meetings already forthcoming for the public comment.
Okay, terrific. So any further comments or questions? Okay, may I entertain a motion? Board Member Cox?
I'm not exactly sure what I'm moving to send it out. I don't exactly know what the motion is.
All right. Not quite sure I heard the motion correctly. Maybe Mr. DeLima can argue.
The action item calls for board action on public comment process, so I take it that the motion is to approve the process outlined by the department.
All right, any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion is carried. Great work again, congratulations on this, and let's make sure we see this thing through. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, move that we go into executive session.
Second? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, we're going to executive session. Please turn off your mics as a reminder.